Good morning. I'm Bill Murray. I've got Christopher Norris with me today from 12 Ronnies, and we're here today to talk a little bit more about startups and in today's case why things don't work out so well, with some great examples from the UK's Dragon Den and the United States' Shark Tank, which are basically the same show, just with a different panel, but the same sort of outcomes. There are good pitches and there are bad pitches, and there are really bad ideas that people try to pitch, and you as they say, you can't put lipstick on a pig. And so today we're going to talk about some of those cases where they tried to put lipstick on the pig. Chris, where do you want to start? We had a nice list of these.
Let's go with the Shark Tank ones, because if you've got US people in the audience, they may remember some of these.
Yeah, we've got the Ionic here. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'll start with that one. This was way back at the beginning of Shark Tank in the first season, which would have been a long time ago now, maybe 15, 20 years ago. This particular one, the first one we're going to look at, is a thing called Ionic Ear. And what essentially this was a kind of Bluetooth device that you surgically implant into somebody's ear. But to charge the device, you had to plug in a cylindrical charger that was about the size of a Q-tip or a kind of earbud thing. And they wanted $1 million in exchange for an investment of 15%. So, what do you think of that, Bill?
Well, given the timing of this also, but the thought of implanting something in somebody's ear, a surgical thing, that's a pretty high hurdle for an early adopter, let alone the general public. Look how long it took for laser corrective eye surgery to really take hold. And in fact, it didn't start out as laser surgery. It started out as doctors actually physically cutting into your eye, and it took decades for that to really become a big thing. So something like this is a pretty big risk. You're asking, when you're pitching, you're asking an investor for money. You're asking for them to make a leap of faith, and investors don't like faith; they like facts. And this thing here, where you had to stick something in your ear to recharge it, I mean, that becomes a bit almost medieval to me. It's sort of a very strange thing in a world where things are wireless and low touch, just not the kind of thing you want to bring in front of an investor.
That's right, and I mean, presumably this was some kind of hearing aid, but the ear is a very delicate organ of the body, and so if you do things like perforate the eardrum, you've got problems.
Yeah,
and I mean, it might get infected, and I mean, the other thing that strikes me is if you've got anything that's Bluetooth in the vicinity, then it might start trying to connect with your device, and so
yeah,
it might get a bit messy or interesting. You might find your ear start playing music or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no matter how you look at this is probably a bad idea. I mean, one or two malpractice lawsuits after the implementation process goes bad. Plus, anything that's implanted in the body, it becomes sort of a medical device. And I don't care where you live in the world, you probably have a lot of hoops to jump through to get it.
And no one's going to invest in anything if no one's ever had this procedure. So
exactly,
exactly, you're going to
have a little bit like Elon Musk's brain implant. They put it in one guy, and it's still just one guy. They haven't even gone to two yet, as far as I know.
That's right, and yet that same guy can't organize an audio interview. So
and if it's so good, why didn't Elon just have it implanted in his brain?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's go to the second one. This one was in season 4. A thing called Squirrel Boss, and this was a device that was designed to keep squirrels off your bird feeder, and the idea was that you gave it an electric shock, the design was called Squirrel Boss. It was the first squirrel-proof bird feeder, and he asked for an investment of $1.3 million for a 40% stake. So, what do you think of that, Bill?
Well, I think anyone can hook up a live wire to something and electrocute anything. The sharks here didn't care for the for the cruelty portion of it. Now, as someone who recently evicted a squirrel from the overhang over my front door, I don't have much sympathy for squirrels. But the problem is a lot of people do. They think they're cute and cuddly, even though they're filthy rodents. So probably be a line of people in front of the stores that tried to sell this product, saying that it's evil and don't go in there. And nobody wants to be part of something controversial. So your product can't be controversial if you're looking for an investor, I think, is my take-home point.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a solution that's looking for a problem really as well. So, why not just make the bird feeder, more difficult to attack by the squirrels? So, I mean, and also, squirrels are pretty resourceful animals, aren't they? They could, I mean, give it like half an hour, it'll probably work out how to get around the electric field, So.
Yeah, there are plenty of low-tech solutions actually that work. I think a lot of people, and this is advice for entrepreneurs. They try to take something that's in the analog world and make it digital, even though it doesn't necessarily need to be. There's such a thing as overcomplicating things. There's some solutions that just work, and they have for hundreds or thousands of years. And it's like building a better mousetrap. The mousetrap just works. Adding Bluetooth to it or adding a display screen to a mousetrap isn't going to make it catch mice any better. In fact, it might make it worse and make it a heck of a lot more expensive. So as you're ideating, don't think, hey, wouldn't it be cool if? I always tell people, if your idea started, wouldn't it be cool if? It's probably a terrible idea. So just move on to the next one.
Okay. Well, the next one, interestingly, because I don't know that we've had anything like this in Dragon's Den, but I stand to be corrected. This one was called Track Days. Again, it was in season 4, and it was a couple of people who pitched an idea for a motorcycle movie called Track Days, and they asked for an investment of $5 million for a 34% profit. And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody go into the Dragon's Den studio and ask for investment into a movie.
Yeah.
That's a bit weird because it's normally some kind of product, isn't it? That's
yeah.
And they did a kind of trailer, but then the Sharks worked out that they didn't have a script and they had no actors lined up for the film either. So what do you reckon to that, Bill?
Well, there is precedent for something like this. I remember, maybe it was 20 years or so ago. I'm a Star Trek fan, so this is why I know about it. But there were some people that were looking to build or to film a low budget but high production value Star Trek movie, and they had a script, and they had and they had some of the actors that were in Star Trek shows before lined up. And they ultimately filmed it, but they kind of crowdsourced it, as I recall, for $10 or $50 or $100 or whatever. I think maybe even at some level you could be in the movie as an extra or something. I forget, but so there is, and I've seen books. There was a fellow who's writing a book about, it was a business book, and he said, if you want me to write the book, give me $5, then you'll get the book. That'll cover your book. You'll get it for free when it comes out. Just looking to say, hey, I know I'm going to have to spend this time. If I could get people to pay for that time in advance, then there's really no downside for me. And the same thing was with the movie. Hey, if we can get people to put some money in, then we could probably give the movie for free, which it is. It's on YouTube, I think, for free. So there is precedent for this, but you don't go to a traditional sort of venture capitalist for that kind of money, especially when you've got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of specialist crowdfunding sites which specialize in sort of film projects. So that's obviously you're not going to get the money for a feature film, but what you could do perhaps is raise some money for a trailer that you can then use to pitch to try and get more money.
Low fidelity, work your way up, absolutely.
And then you can maybe get some money for an event where you get investors to come along, that kind of thing. But to actually pitch something like that when it's not being thought through to the sharks in the Shark Tank, it seems a bit speculative. And they reckoned it was a hypothetical idea, so
Yeah.
nobody would want to invest in anything like that.
Yeah, they had nothing but a title and an idea. This is basically the plot to Mel Brooks's The Producers.
Well, they were deliberately trying to make it terrible, weren't they? So
yeah, is it just let's make the worst play ever, so we shut down after one night and we can keep all the investors' money.
That's right.
So I think anyone who's seen that movie probably is going to be a little shy on investing in something that doesn't really have legs to it.
But at this point, maybe I've just remembered there's a guy I know called Joe Queenan, who's a famous film critic in New York who writes for things like The Guardian and various American magazines and newspapers. And he deliberately set out to make a movie on his credit card about 25 years ago, and then wrote a book about the experience. Because there was a guy, I can't remember his name, something like Sergio Romero or something. He made the world's most profitable movie. I think it cost him $8,000. He was this Mexican guy who shot this Western for $8,000, and it made millions at the box office. And he, Joe Queenan is always somebody who likes trying things out. So he got all his neighbors and things to be in this movie, and then wrote about the experience. So I recommend that if anybody's interested in checking that out.
Yeah, the movie The Blair Witch Project was very similar. Super low budget, made gads of money because it looked homemade, and because that actually, because it was a horror movie, it made it more legitimate. Which was
I know it's a bit of a sidetrack, but that was a genius viral marketing campaign before social media, really, because it was 25 years ago.
Yeah,
and everybody thought it was real. And nobody could really quite work out what Blair Witch was. So there was this kind of mystery behind the whole thing. And then when it got revealed, they'd already got this pent-up demand to see it. So,
well, and it's a great lesson to entrepreneurs. As you're trying to bootstrap, you don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to have something that captures people's imagination. And that's a great early. It's a great early metric for whatever value proposition you're trying to get out there. Is if people are getting excited about it, understand that excitement and capitalize that. If nobody's getting excited about it, you need to stop and ask yourself, am I really driving value here? Or is there some disconnect between what I think and what the customer really thinks?
Okay. The next one on Shark Tank was presented in season 3, a thing called the Sullivan Generator. And somebody came in and presented this vague idea and said that he had been an inventor of more than 1,000 inventions, and presented these amateur drawings to show the sharks how this thing could produce electricity and gold as a byproduct by saying that he harnessed the spin of the earth. And he said that 200 of these generators could produce an income of $96 billion from the gold that was produced. So, what do you predict the shark said about that?
Well, I mean, my initial reaction to that wasn't alchemy pretty much debunked by about 1475. Because that's all it is. I mean, I'm sure they didn't use the word alchemy, but that's what this is. We'll turn lead to gold. We'll turn, I'll turn something else into gold. And anyone with a modicum of physics and chemistry knows what it takes to turn something else into gold, and it's not easy. It doesn't happen as some byproduct of some natural occurrence, except for a supernova.
Gold is one of the most inert substances on the planet. It's really hard to make, but once you've made it, it doesn't deteriorate, and that's why it's so valuable.
Yeah. So obviously, unless someone hasn't had basic college science, they're going to hear this, and if they're not laughing right away, then they don't get it. Maybe they don't get the joke, but this is one of those things where and maybe he was a believer in it. I mean, there are people that believe in the flat earth. There are people that believe in in alchemy still, but it's a belief system. It's not a science. It's not. There's no science.
And the other thing with this is that let's suspend judgment for a moment. Let's say it was a decent idea. You would need a patent. And clearly this guy didn't have a patent because it's an impossible thing. So, and whenever you've got an invention like this, no one, even if it's a brilliant idea, nobody's going to invest in something that hasn't got a patent because you're not protecting your IP.
Yeah, and if it does truly work, that patent has to be there, because then somebody else can find it tomorrow and file it right in front of you. So yeah, and again, that's something that is, you're asking for investors for money. What am I investing in? Well, if there's no patent to this wonderful thing that you've built, then I'm investing in the hope that nobody else steals it between now and tomorrow, when they hear about it. So you have to. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is that they don't stand in the shoes of the people they're asking for money. Well, if somebody came to me and asked for this, what would I say? Well, I'd tell them to go fly a kite. I mean, this is crazy, or you're not protected, or how are you insuring my investment? And these things are rarely ever considered. It's like, just give me some money so I can keep doing this thing I love doing. That's not a compelling case for someone to give you their hard-earned money.
No, correct.
Sorry.
Let's carry on. This one was in season 3. It's called Cougar Energy. and this guy went.
This one's expensive.
He went into the Shark Tank, and this energy drink was apparently tailored for middle-aged women who were looking to date younger men. And he wanted an investment of $1.5 million for a 30% stake in the company. But he'd been going for 3 years without much success, and apparently it tasted horrible. So what do you think, Bill?
Well, I mean, this is borderline offensive. I mean, why do the women need the drink? Maybe the young men need the drink to keep up with the older women. I don't know. I mean, this feels like a sarcastic product. I mean, there really isn't. There's no need there. There's no. Yeah. There aren't people screaming, "I need energy to keep up with these young men." I just don't see that. And and the inventor himself was a man, which really kind of doesn't make him look good. So, yeah, this is
the key point that you mentioned there, Bill, is that it's a kind of solution to something that isn't a problem.
Yeah,
there isn't really a niche there. There's no market need for this kind of drink.
Just, a crass idea. Wouldn't it be cool? I'll bet we could trick older women into buying this drink so that they can get younger men. Hey, that works for men and beer, but doesn't work for women, I don't think.
Well, maybe I don't know when this was developed, but it may have been around the same time as Viagra was invented, maybe.
Oh,
so maybe he's kind of thinking, well, if that can be something which men want to use, then maybe women might want to use something that help them, attract younger men. But that's looking at it through a very male lens, isn't it? So it's not really a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
okay. Here's one that was on the first season. And this one is a thing. It's a sticky note holder. And apparently, you would put the sticky notes inside a holder that you could attach to a laptop and fold inside when you close the laptop. And she wanted $1 million investment for an exchange of a 20% stake, and up to the point of going into the Shark Tank, she hadn't sold any of these things, so it was a completely, untested idea. So, Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, any new product has to be disruptive to something. I always think of disruption as your customer is flipping through the pages of a book all day long. That's how their day is. It's page after page. How can you jam a bookmark in there at a certain spot that makes them stop flipping pages and do something different? And this is one of those things. Like, do you have a product that's so compelling that someone sees it and says, I got to strap that thing onto my computer, even if what I'm doing now, even if I don't have the app for the computer that allows me to put sticky notes on my screen. I mean, sometimes I just put sticky notes on the screen and they stick just fine when I put the lid down, and usually 2 or 3 of them. You're not disruptive. You're not making people say, oh, stop, I've got to do this.
Well, exactly. I mean, but so, if you've got sticky notes, you can put them on the screen. If you have a notebook that you use, you can just write in the notebook. And apparently, at the when season 1 was happening, there were such things as note apps that were available on computers. So it was again a solution to something that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the lesson for entrepreneurs here is you might have an idea and it might feel like a good idea and it might be sort of novel, but it just might be that nobody cares. You think it's fun and you built one for yourself and you love it, but nobody else will. And that's why we do, at the 12 Ronnies, we help people at that early stage to validate an idea, validate a customer problem, so that you don't make the expensive mistake of scaling up something that nobody cares about. Not because you're a bad inventor, not because you're not smart, but sometimes people just don't care, and that's okay. We want to help make sure that you make it to the next idea instead of being out on the curb and living in a refrigerator box eating saltines.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, which was in season 7, is a thing called No Phone, where some people came up with this joke gift, which you were supposed to give people if they were obsessed with looking at their phones. I don't know quite what the device was. Maybe I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, I mean, apparently they even went and did TED Talks on this thing. Yeah, and they raised some money through a Kickstarter. They raised $18,000 through a Kickstarter campaign, and then they pitched the idea on the show. And they wanted an investment of $25,000 in exchange for a 25% equity. So what do you think of a kind of joke to kind of satirize people who overuse their smartphones?
Well, again, it's different markets. Kickstarter is one thing, and it's great because you can put the picture of the product out there, say, here's the thing I'm going to build, who's interested in buying it? And then you can get them to part with their money, which is the best signal you can get as an entrepreneur. When you get someone to give you a down payment or actually pay in advance for something promised in the future, that's great. But asking the same thing from an investor is a different story. First of all, it's a heck of a lot more money. It's a huge risk. I mean, even on Kickstarter, I've ordered several things there. I don't think I've ever actually received one of the items. They go away and they're gone. And the thing didn't work out. They didn't get enough people, whatever it was. So they're just different. So for some entrepreneurs, Kickstarter is the perfect place to go. Yeah, you can't, with a gimmick, a gag gift, you can't get an investor to do it. But you can go on Kickstarter and you can find 1,000 people with the same sense of humor as you do to buy the thing and perhaps help you start a market or understand what your market is for it. Yeah. So it's just different ideas have different places they should go for funding.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like we said last week, Bill, maybe something like this, if you were actually building something useful and you wanted to find out whether you could actually distract people from their phones, then maybe something like this might be a useful way of testing whether you could actually do that, But it strikes me as something like you'd only use it once if you'd ever use it at all, because it's like a visual gag. Yeah. If a comedian goes on TV and uses a prop to tell a joke, then it's over because you've told the joke. And if your product becomes popular, like this gimmicky gag gift to get people off their phone, if that ever became popular, then people would know what it was the moment they saw you take it out of your bag and try and distract them with it. So it wouldn't work at that point.
It's like a whoopee cushion. You only get away with it's only funny once with somebody.
Yeah,
exactly. Then it isn't later. So
exactly. So maybe in a joke shop you could maybe get it for 50 cents or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The things at joke shops are not expensive, so you'd have to have a really low price point because people are buying that with money that they'd be equally likely to throw in the garbage can.
Okay, well, we've got a couple left. I mean, I think we might be able to get through this. There are 10 here. We'll save some of the other stuff for another time.
Absolutely.
And the next one is called Man Candle. This was in season 2. And somebody came into the room and said he wanted to keep his house smelling like a man. So he's developed this man candle to give off aromas, including beer, golf course, American football, and farts. I don't know quite that why that would be attractive. And he wanted $50,000 for a 25% stake. So what do you think of that, Bill?
Well, obviously not a product for men who are looking to attract a mate. But again, very gimmicky, and almost sort of crass. Yeah, I'll bet I could get people to buy this ridiculously stupid product. And again, an investor bringing this to investors is just the wrong place. Take it to Kickstarter. Hey, who wants the fart candle? Oh yeah, we'll get one of those. Yeah, you get 1,000 people to buy it. You can make 1,000 and do another Kickstarter and get another 1,000 people.
Yeah.
It's about the right place and in the right investment. Some ideas you can only bootstrap. Nobody on earth will give you a penny for it until it's done or until it's fully hashed out. Some things are right for Kickstarter and some things are right for real investors. And it's a matter of picking your place. And I worry that some of the people in this list here, they probably were set up by the producers because they were looking. We're looking for some fun here. So yeah, these people have a really bad idea, and no one's going to ever buy this. So let's give the sharks or the dragons a chance to really rip them to shreds. I was watching one of the videos this morning. The one guy was, just literally a jerk to this fellow, but he didn't have his numbers together. He didn't have, he wasn't ready to talk to a sophisticated investor. So make sure that if you're talking to these people, be ready to answer their hard questions. Even in the corporate setting where I operate a lot, I'm working with teams. Hey, you're going to the senior people of the company. Be ready for the kind of questions that senior people are going to ask. Because if you're not, you're going to get laughed out of there, and it could hurt your career.
Yeah.
So these are the stakes are high for these types of things.
Well, exactly. If you're putting on LinkedIn that you've invented this thing, it's going to stalk you if you then come up with something sensible later on. So, I mean, the one thing I would say with this is if you discovered that this foul-smelling candle did things like, kill mosquitoes or something,
there you go.
Then you could pivot the thing, and it becomes a kind of insect repellent rather than a joke candle. So
there you go.
So I guess I don't know whether he'd ever experimented to see whether it did that kind of thing.
At least vampires or evil spirits or something.
Okay, yeah, he needs to think of some other use for it, maybe to make sure he didn't have thousands of these things in his garage. So.
Oh boy, you wouldn't want to go into that garage. Whoa, do not go in there.
We'll end with this one. This one's called Waken Bacon. It was in season 2, and this was an alarm clock that apparently started a frying pan on your cooker. Started frying bacon at the time that it's supposed to wake you up, and he wanted an investment of $40,000 for a 20% equity in the company. So what do you think of that, Bill?
Well, as the shark said here, I mean, it's a fire hazard. You're cooking bacon unattended with all that hot grease. And what if you hit the snooze button and and it burns? Then it burns your house down. I mean, great idea. I love bacon, but do you want it every morning? And it said you had to leave the bacon out overnight. And I'm not sure I want to leave it out overnight. What if you got a pet in the house? There's going to be no bacon there in the morning, or it's going to have flies all over it. What isn't wrong with this idea?
Yeah, exactly. If you got sort of unrefrigerated meat and you were then trying to eat it later, I mean, what problem are you trying to solve? I mean, it's not like there's you wake up and then you fry some bacon. I mean, what's the big issue? People
want automatic bacon in the morning, I guess.
But the one thing I do like about it, I quite like the name. I think Waken Bacon is quite a good name for something. So yeah, go on, Bill.
Well, and that's the thing, sometimes, again, here's the entrepreneurial lesson on this one. Sometimes you come up with that name that's so clever. We got to sell this. We got to sell it. But all we have is a name. We don't have a product that's worth selling. It's just catchy. But that's not going to, it's not going to do it.
Well, to close the session, apparently one of the sharks, who's this guy called, I don't know his first name, but O'Leary.
Yeah,
He apparently said, "I'm going to put that in my museum of really bad ideas that kill people."
because that's all it's going to do. Your chances of getting downstairs right at the right moment that the bacon's the crispness that you like is probably pretty low. So it's one of those things that even if somebody bought it, it would sit on the shelf till the end of time next to their little desktop oven and their pet rock. And the pet rock is an interesting one. We could probably talk about someday, but pet rock would have never gotten any investor money.
No.
But it would have done great on Kickstarter.
Have you seen the Zen Gardens as well, which is essentially it's like a box with some sand in it, and you just rake the sand, don't you?
Got the little rake, and they sell them as sort of an executive gift. Actually, that kind of appeals to me. That the thought of kind of raking that sand does seem very, very calming.
Yeah.
But that might have some legs, but not much else.
Okay, well, thank you. That was fun, and the reason we did that today is that we had a suggestion last time from Julie, I think it was, who said, he was saying, why don't we do a session based on some terrible ideas and how they didn't go anywhere. So I just thought this would be quite a fun session to look at some of the unsuccessful pitches at Shark Tank. And there are plenty more where this has come from. So if you liked this session, we can always do it again.
There's no end to the number of bad ideas out there that we could talk about.
But yeah, if you've got ideas for future sessions, then please do let us know.
Absolutely, thank you.
But thank you everybody for coming along. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.